Start, a college football podcast for everyone and everyone else. I'm your host, John Buhler, lead writer at fansided.com. I'm joined today by a man who's had it up to here. So he's just sipping chamomile, watching Ruling the Boys, handing out NIL checks in the Runza parking lot. He's Cody Williams, just a content director at fansided.com. Hey, Bubba. Hey, Bubba. Hey, how are you?
It's all fun and games until Big Red shows up in the parking lot. That's what I've always said. That's a life lesson to live by for everyone. I'm doing good, man. A little tired, working through it, but we're here. How you doing, man?
Pretty good. This is the last thing I'm doing before I go on a anniversary trip to Key West with the Arizona State podcast.
Much deserved, much deserved.
Thank you. It means a lot. I've got to get up at 5 a.m. to fly out because
Not deserved, not deserved at all.
no, not at all. The world doesn't sleep, and neither do we. And obviously, we're gonna finish the show with some Jalen with no doubt because no diggity.
No diggity, no doubt, and I feel like my whole body's covered in Novocaine right now, man.
I like the way you work it. Oh my gosh, yes. That's how this Saturday's episode's gonna go. It's gonna be completely off the rails. So obviously we false started. So our first and 15 today is gonna be you're doing great, sweetie. Apparently, Scott Frost not only lost a lot of games in Nebraska, but lost the inability to read the room. Dude's burning bridges like Antonio Brown out there at Big 12 Media Days.
Dude, like we knew we were gonna have some stuff coming out of Big 12 Media Days, and frankly, there wasn't as much as I was hoping for. But Scott Frost delivered the goods with one of them, man. Comes out and basically says, blames Nebraska for everything that went wrong. And like, I'm not saying that's entirely untrue, but man, it is mostly not Nebraska's fault that Scott Frost failed because we've watched what Matt Rule has done since he got there, and it's not what was happening in the Scott Frost era. I can assure you of that.
No, like Matt Rule's almost kind of gotten it back to like what it was under Bo Pelini.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like what Nebraska is going to be at the peak in the new Big Ten.
Mhm.
By leaving the old Big 12, namely leaving your recruiting soil in Texas, that was going to be problematic for you.
Yeah.
You went from being one of the three teams who dominated it with Oklahoma and Texas to playing a lot of Wisconsins and Iowas.
Yeah, shouts to the Midwest where you're just making your home now.
This is your home now.
You too good for your home?
So neither of us are very optimistic or very high on UCF for this season. In time, it may work out, but like you would have thought, like this guy like didn't experience like the most huge embarrassing failure at his alma mater ever. Like, has it ever been worse for anybody else at their alma mater besides him?
No, I mean, honestly, like in terms of how it ended, and like I think the biggest thing is like marrying the expectations with what reality was. I think that's what makes it the most disappointing by far, is because like you look at it and like the expectations for Scott Frost coming home after all of the success that he had at UCF, like the expectations were enormous. Like it wasn't get back to what Bo Pelini had in Nebraska. It was like get back to, the Mike Rozier days in Nebraska. Like we're talking national championships. That was the promise that Nebraska fans told themselves was happening. And instead he couldn't make a damn bowl game. Like it's absolutely one of like it's the worst example of this that we've ever seen.
Just because he knew Tom Osborne doesn't mean he's going to play like Tom
That's what
Osborne.
I'm saying, man.
Also, I don't think shooting up your players with the cattle steroids like they did back in the day.
Hey, maybe you know what? Maybe that's why he's blaming Nebraska. Maybe he knows that's what it takes to get the Cornhuskers back to glory.
uh, you can't spell Bob Devaney without Vane, and this is false
That's
start.
right. Oh man.
Oh my gosh. But I think I mentioned this to you like in our notes. I'm gonna read this directly from like our Slack and with regards to what Scott Frost said. And it says like, yeah, we could swap in Scott Frost for one of these. The dude's gonna launch rockets into the ocean at Cape Canaveral and claim the space. That was the space he wanted to explore.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's, and I feel like what makes it even worse is like, and what makes me honestly less optimistic, like we have very little optimism about UCF and Scott Frost in year one. Like I think I'm a little more optimistic long term just because I know it's worked before. And so like that to some degree does give me some optimism long term. But I don't think it's going to be a good year. My optimism long term, and even more so for this year, like I'm entirely pessimistic now because it seems like he's still chewing on sour grapes. It still seems like he's not understanding the institutional failures at Nebraska that he's the one who brought about. It was not the administration's fault. It was not the like Nebraska's not an under-resourced program. They're never going to be. That's all the people who are like in Lincoln care about is Nebraska football. And like on top of that, we saw that like at the same time that Nebraska football was failing, the basketball program started getting investment and they started making at least a little bit of noise, like starting to level up that program a little bit. So it is truly just on Scott Frost. And for him to go and make these comments at it, when he's no longer associated with the university, they cut ties very cleanly with him. And now you're back at a place where you had success. You should be trying to turn over a new leaf. And instead, you're just making, crappy wine out of sour grapes.
It's like that. I don't know if you've ever seen this. There is a lady on like channel W2 WSB TV in Atlanta who went up to a chateau while was mushing grapes.
Oh
And
yeah.
she fell out of like the kiddie pool and then just
Yeah.
let out like a curling scream. Like that was Scott Frost in Nebraska.
And then the broadcast like lingers like way too long when like she's like on the ground flailing.
Imagine if that was an high def.
If only we could be so lucky.
So no, if only we could be so lucky. But I think well, the other thing about this is Scott Frost doesn't seem to understand that the UCF he's going to is not the UCF he left.
Yeah,
Like when he came in, and I think he was the OC at Oregon prior to taking over there. UCF had kind of experienced like its first run of like relative greatness under a George O'Leary who came there because he lied about on his resume.
he was a really cool liar there at UCF.
The really original, really cool liar. Shout out Dante Culpepper.
That's right.
But then after Frost left, Josh Heupel had relative success,
Mhm.
and then you also had some success there, fleeting with Gus Malzahn. So like the UCF program has been able to sustain. It pulls back occasionally, but it usually kind of bounces back because it's a large student population. It's in Orlando. There's a lot of players in Florida, but you're not playing in the American or
Right.
Conference USA anymore. You're in the Big 12, and you're the most geographically isolated school in that conference now. You're moving up, so you have to kind of figure out like, okay, are we going to be able to do this?
Mhm.
I feel like them and Cincinnati are struggling with it more so than Houston and BYU, from my estimation.
Yeah.
But like that's at play as well.
No, I mean, you went when he was there, UCF was big fish in a little pond. Now they're a medium-sized fish in a much bigger pond. And like that is a different landscape to navigate. It is not going to be the same job that he left previously. It is not going to be the same job that he left Nebraska for. And I feel like if he was, his comments would probably feel a little bit different if he was still in, if UCF was still in the American, if they were still a G5 program. But now you're a Power Four program, and like to be clear, I'm not projecting either of these things to happen. But let's have a world where Nebraska and UCF make the college football playoff, and you have to go to Lincoln as UCF to play in the college football playoff. That game just became exponentially more harder. Even if it's just a bowl game, even if it's not a college football playoff game, like you just made your life as a Power Four leader, like a leader of a Power Four program, exponentially harder.
100%. You're not going to be making good memories at Memorial Stadium. Just like maybe you will at the Acrisure Bounce House.
That's right.
Acrisure is best known for ruining Heinz Field. I mean, I think the Steelers have really kind of circled the drain since they made that decision.
Oh yeah. I mean, like I don't know a single Steelers fan that calls it Acrisure. I can assure you of that.
I wonder if Mark Powell's got the ketchup bottles, or he probably knows where they are.
He definitely knows where they're buried, that's for sure.
I don't know if it's in the Allegheny, the Ohio, or the Mon, but it's out there somewhere. And if you throw something into one of those three rivers, it's gone eventually. So let's move on to our next topic with he gone eventually. This was going to be our lead before Scott Frost decided to open his mouth. Longtime athletic director Joe Castiglione is stepping down from his post at OU. He has been there since '98. He's been there longer than Kirk Ferentz has been in charge at Iowa for the football team.
Which
And
I
it's
mean,
not.
that happened at the dawn of time. So like, it's truly been forever.
It's like it's like on one and it's like Littlefoot, us, and then them coming in.
That's right. Yeah, 100%.
You know,
Right after the meteor hit, they took over, brother.
I was born in the tar. But so you pitched this to me basically with Castiglione stepping down, that this puts even more pressure on Brent Venables, and there could be a ripple effect. Also, Castiglione is going to stay on as like emeritus AD, which I'm not super crazy about. This kind of feels very much like what happened with Wisconsin after
Mhm.
Barry Alvarez kind of went its way, and Wisconsin hasn't been the same since.
No, like on that note, like yes, it does feel very reminiscent of Wisconsin, and like we talk about it all the time in different facets and different capacities, but like there is such a thing as too many cooks in the kitchen when it comes to college football, and this feels like it definitely could be when he's in that I can't speak, but you get it. When he goes into his next role, like it could be a too many cooks in the kitchen type of deal. In terms of the pressure on Brent Venables, man, I'm looking at this and like I am coming around more so on the idea that Oklahoma is probably going to be better than I thought they were initially. Like Arbuckle coming in, Mateer coming in, Ott coming in. Like you've made notable improvements to shore up what was your obvious weakness a year ago. Brent Venables still a well-respected defensive mind. I do think he should probably loosen the reins on that a little bit more than he still has. But regardless, you have made necessary changes. At the same time, if those changes do not take, and you have a new AD coming in, they're going to want to make their mark. They're not going to want to just spin the wheels. They're not going to just want to, work like go with what, Castigs had going on previously. They are going to look at this and be like, we need to shake this up. We need to get Oklahoma football back into what it was and also into a new era where we're not just recycling like the same things. It would not surprise me if a new AD comes in there and looks at the situation if Brent Venables and Oklahoma do not meet expectations this year and go into the next go looking at next season and be like, I'm gonna bring in an outside hire, someone who doesn't necessarily have Oklahoma ties. Like we're not even like dreaming about Heupel. We're not even dreaming about anyone else. You're not talking like the conversation of bringing Bob Stoops back, which I can guarantee you would
No.
happen. That's not going to be a conversation in the rooms in Norman. And like that's not like that's what happens when AD changes happen. And so like I'm looking at the situation and man, Brent Venables better hope he got this right. And to be clear, I'm optimistic that he did, but if it doesn't work out there, it could be a pretty messy situation.
Yeah, I'm pulling for Oklahoma. They've got a tough schedule. They made some big changes in offense with the three additions you made. They were able to retain DeMarco Murray when Penn State tried to
Mhm.
poach him.
Yeah.
So that basically leads me to believe that Oklahoma is going to be much better offensively and a more balanced team as well. Schedule's still really tough.
Mhm.
My thought is like if Castiglione is still around, he's still going to basically have like it's like if Jerry Jones, as long as he's still around, it's still his team for the Cowboys, and
Mhm.
it doesn't matter what Steven or anybody else does.
Yeah.
So, like, okay, if it doesn't work out, like, so he looks for a replacement. I don't know. Why don't you bring out a guy who was a deputy under you, Mississippi State AD Zach Selman,
Mhm.
who's a royalty because given who his father and his uncle were on the football team. You bring Jeff Lebby back. I mean, is that going to be an improvement?
Well, I don't know if that's the move you really want to make there,
No,
but that
no,
might not be the hire I was thinking of when I was
no,
talking about doing shaking things up. It
no.
certainly
But
would do that though.
what do you try to throw as much money as you possibly can at Danny White and Josh Heupel as a package deal?
Yeah.
Like that's something you could do. Also, this puts a lot of pressure on the basketball coach, Porter Moser, a lot as well too.
Yeah, absolutely, especially after a pretty disappointing season last year. So yeah.
Yeah. So I just kind of feel like if you got a guy that's been there forever, like I think I wrote about this like over the summer or something, summer, fall, spring. We're going spring.
At some point in this year,
It
time's
was
a flat circle.
it was after Kirk Ferentz limb for a time, and now
That's right. That's right.
It's a Bueller timeline we're living on here, brother. Woo. Anyway, like,
Do you think Kirk Ferentz kept Ducky as a pet?
you know how like in Edward Scissorhands they turn that robot in Edward Scissorhands? That Ducky's Brian.
I wasn't ready for that. Not at
No,
all.
God, aren't these evening episodes great?
The analysis is top notch, let me tell you. You can't get it anywhere else other than False Start.
No, you can't. I don't even know what point I was trying to make. There was a good one too about Oklahoma. But yeah, I wrote somewhere in time that like Castiglione has been the AD longer than a fifth of the time Oklahoma's been a state.
Yeah. I mean, it is wild, and like I think that's why it rings the bell of pressure and uncertainty to me. Just because like it like even if he is staying on in some capacity, and who, like you said, who knows what that capacity is in terms of like final say on decision making and stuff like that. If it's maybe honestly, it wouldn't even surprise me if it was just like a 1 year thing to kind of ease the transition, frankly. But that's what honestly, that's probably ideal. So you'd avoid a Wisconsin situation. Like you make the transfer of power, so to speak, a little bit smoother, but then you step out of the way and, hand over the show to whoever takes over. But you look at the situation as a whole, and like Oklahoma in Castiglione's entire tenure, they've enjoyed a hell of a lot of success in the
Oh yeah.
football program. And like they obviously have fallen back from that in recent years. But with the change in power, that's going to come the like desire for change in general. And like we've seen it at numerous programs. It's one of the reasons we talk about, Lincoln Riley, like his situation has changed with Jen Cohen being at USC now. Like people, I feel like the general college football fan underestimates that how much that transition of power at the athletic director level can impact, and like how it just changes the situation that you're in. Like Lincoln Riley is not in the same situation he was when he got hired at USC. Part of that is his own doing, but another part of that is the expectations with the new AD absolutely change, and they also are not married to that decision. Like it doesn't reflect badly upon them if you fire a coach that you did not hire.
No, not at all. But I think with Oklahoma, it's like, the unknown, it's not stable anymore.
Mhm.
This was a guarantee. And a lot of things like are not guarantees in life. It's like death, taxes, and Joe Castiglione is the AT in Oklahoma.
That's right. I mean, fitting that he's stepping down the year after Nick Saban's also stepped down as the head coach. Like that was another, guarantee that we had.
I know, man. It was inevitable. I don't even know what I was going to say here, but it doesn't really matter. So let's, you know what? I think we're excited about
That's a
this.
sign to move on. Go to the next
Yeah, yeah. We're gonna
topic.
we're gonna move on to the next topic here with some it don't mean enough.
Mhm.
I wrote this, you edited this. This is going live tomorrow. It's about, essentially power ranking the job security of every SEC head coach. And I split it into four quadrants. I don't know if I did the exercise right, but I did do it.
You
So
did. You did. No, you ranked them and tiered them. So that's what
yeah.
we love to see.
So like the first tier, like coaches like 16 through 13 are basically like, if you fire them, you should fire yourself.
Yeah, 100%.
So I got Kirby Smart at 16, Steve Sarkisian at 14, Steve Sarkisian at 15, Josh Heupel 14, Lane Kiffin 13.
Mhm.
Any thoughts from that for you?
I was a bit surprised to see. I think the only surprise I saw in there was Lane Kiffin, which
Yeah,
that's probably surprised you to hear because like we're big fans of Lane Kiffin on this here program, but at the same time, like I do think you look at the situation and you wonder if there's a point in time where Ole Miss boosters and the Ole Miss fan base gets a little complacent. Like once more, even though like I think you and I realistically look at Ole Miss and think Lane Kiffin's probably pretty close to maxing this out. And so like
yeah,
I agree with you in terms of that's how I would view Lane Kiffin, but I think that we could reach a point in time, especially if Ole Miss does not make the college football playoff this year, like a, a point in time in the next couple years where people start looking at Lane Kiffin and being like, our 10 win season's actually enough. Our 9 win season actually enough. They should be, but that's not the expectation in the world that we live in with college football fans, especially in the SEC.
yeah. He becomes Bo Pelini, and the one
Yeah,
place he would leave is to land at Bo Pelini, Nebraska, where his dad coach he was born, the Bill Belichick way.
right. And I mean, like, there's levels to this. Like, There's a reason Georgia, when Mark Richt was basically putting up the records that Lane Kiffin is right now at Ole Miss, Georgia looked at that and said, that's not good enough eventually. And so, like, at Georgia, yeah, there's a higher ceiling. I think Lane Kiffin has Ole Miss pretty damn close to the ceiling.
Yeah, 10-2, make the playoff, win a game. That's about what you can do, given a mid-tier resource program and
Mhm.
the SEC, given all the stuff. You've got talent in state, but you got to split that with Mississippi State. They get guys,
And
so
I
it's
mean,
always
Alabama comes into the state. Like you
yeah,
have some uphill battles that you're climbing.
yeah. So it's very clearly like 1, 2, 3 with Kirby, Sark, and Heupel. I feel
Mhm.
like I'm just very confident with that. Like they could do pretty much no wrong, even if Heupel or Tennessee has a down season. Like they we're not that far away from like Jeremy Pruitt wearing a bandana on his head, looking like he's Yogi Bear looking for picnic baskets.
We're also not that like terribly far removed from Lane Kiffin like
That-
being the coach at Tennessee and that disaster. Like Josh Heupel is a stable compound, and like any lack of success they have this year, just remember that Joey Aguilar is his quarterback. Like that's where we're at.
yeah. Sometimes I'd rather have Christina Aguilera at quarterback.
That's what I'm saying, man. What a girl. That's what a girl wants. Like I don't know.
The genie doesn't go back in the bottle.
That's right.
So the next tier, 12 through 9, are guys that were like, I would be stunned if they got fired.
Mhm.
12 would be Mike Elko at A&M, 11 Shane Beamer, South Carolina, Eli Drinkwitz at Mizzou at 10, and then Clark Lee at 9. Anything stand out there for you?
I think I think it's probably the right tier, but I probably would have had Elko a little bit lower just
Okay.
because, again, I'm just reading the room and not like we both believe in Mike Elko as a head coach. I don't necessarily believe in this Texas A&M team quite as much as you do this year, but A&M fans, A&M boosters, we've seen how impatient they get. They paid Jimbo Fisher a hell of a lot of money to leave. And like the buyout for Mike Elko is not at that level. Guarantee you that. And so if the success, like say, let's say the Marcel Reed experience does not go as planned this year, and your recruiting is clearly not on the level that it was under Jimbo Fisher, which may not be a bad thing long term, but it's not. That's all boosters and fans are going to see is that you've taken a step back and what you're trying to work with less talent is not working. And so I do think that as of right now, anytime in the immediate future, it would be crazy to fire Mike Elko. He does have a lot of security for 2025 and probably 2026. But I do see a world where sooner than Clark Lee, sooner than Eli Drinkwitz, and sooner than Shane Beamer, fans start to get hella impatient with it.
Yeah, I mean, he's not sexy at all. I mean, he's steak. It's Texas A&M loves some sizzle, man. Joe
That's
Baby
right.
Joe with Jimbo Fisher and Kevin Sumlin and what swag copters and all that other nonsense doesn't win games. Just give me more of that, man.
That's right.
But like he comes back and immediately puts out the grease fire that was Jimbo Fisher.
Yeah.
But you are right though. If the Marcel Reed thing doesn't work, if Colin Klein's just not it as an OC, I can understand like Texas A&M can just print money, or they can just put a stick in the ground and Daniel Playview comes out of the side and he drinks their milkshake.
And they're for damn sure going to yell about it because that's the other thing that you can bet on at Texas A&M.
Yeah, that's good bull there. All right, the top half. Let's go 8 through 5. You got Brian Kelly at 8 at
Mhm.
LSU, 7 Kalen DeBoer at Alabama, 6 Jeff Lebby at Mississippi State, and 5 Billy Napier at Florida. Napier is really the only one that I think there is a way where he could get fired this
Mhm.
season. It's very close, but like I was kind of surprised that I had Kelly at 8.
Yeah, no, but I was going to say, I think this is my favorite tier because I agree with you that Napier's in the right spot. Like of these four, he probably has the highest chance. I still don't think it's necessarily likely, but he does have like the highest chance of losing his job this year. But when you look at these four coaches, I think they are all in this like vaguely the same bucket of they're probably not getting fired this year, but if things go poorly, you're going into 2026 on every hot seat list. And I think like that's when I look at this tier, that's what I see. And like I'm not sure any of the other coaches on this list necessarily fit that bill in the same way. So like this is by far my favorite tier, like just to like think about conceptually.
Yeah, with Kelly and DeBoer, it's like make the damn playoff. Like
Mhm.
like I'm convinced if DeBoer doesn't make it his first 3 years, he's gone.
Yeah.
And you go give all the money in the world to Dan Lanning at that
Yeah,
point.
100%. Like
Uh,
tell him he can own the University of Alabama. Make it a private school. It's no longer a state school.
wife, he doesn't have to get another tattoo. It's already on there, so he's good.
That's right.
Then like Brian Kelly with Marcus Freeman having all that success at Notre Dame. I don't know where you would go for an LSU hire. I can't even really get my head at like who you'd even go to replace him at this point. Levy, it just kind of feels bad because like his players put hard. Just the Mike Leach passing, the Zach Arnett of it all. You're pulling for him, but like it's a tough spot. And then the reason I've got Napier at 5 is like you've got a tough schedule.
Mhm.
But if you can't like develop DJ Lagway, go get somebody you can.
Right. No, 100%. And like, yes, it is a tough schedule, but it is a schedule that at minimum, Florida is, I would say, I'm not going to say expected to run through, but they're expected to navigate. And Napier is expected to navigate that. Like, even with the schedule, if Florida is like entering the final month of the season with questions about whether or not they're going to make a bowl game, that's when you're going to start to see the hot seat talk for Billy Napier start to come around. Because, like, I think the expectations with DJ Lagway and the talent that this roster has, like, it is to comfortably make a bowl game. And like the ceiling is making the college football playoff. That's not the likeliest outcome, but like that's the ceiling. And as long as you're anywhere between like the expectation and the ceiling, I think your job's pretty safe. But if you fall below that expectation, that's where things start to get a little hairy.
Wins could be hard to come by, but you can't like look second class like you did
Right.
versus Miami early last year. You can't spontaneously combust like you did against Georgia. You got to hang tough, with Texas, with LSU, with Ole Miss, and most certainly cannot lose to FSU in any capacity. I'll tell you that
Yeah,
much.
don't do that. Don't let Thomas Castellanos out here talking his ass like he wants to.
You can't spell. There's so many S's at Castellanos. It's great.
I know. You can't spell it without multiple, man. He's got to talk it.
I wonder what his middle name is. Like Cicero, which is more S's.
It's just his mom actually just sat on the S key on the keyboard. It's just five S's.
It's like Ulysses S. Grant.
Yes.
God, that is good. And then the four guys in the hottest seat are Brent Venables in Oklahoma at 4, Hugh Freeze at Auburn at 3, Mark Stoops 2 at Kentucky, and Sam Pittman number 1 at Arkansas. Hugh Freeze is feeling the heat today. I wrote about this. I know you're a golf guy too, but like
Yeah.
you also don't coach the Auburn Tigers.
I also don't like leave my job to go play golf. So like that's kind of the Hugh Freeze conundrum right now is they want him on the recruiting trail and he's winning club championships out there.
Look, Auburn will bring in slimy people. This is kind of what they do. Like Tommy Tuberville's not a great dude. Terry Bowden's got some skeletons in his closet. We know about Chiswick.
Brian Harson's a bad football coach.
Bruce Pearl wasn't like he had some words coming in.
Not a Boy Scout, we'll say
No, no.
that.
But then you got a born again Christian Hugh Freeze coming, which is just so gosh darn convenient.
That's right. I'll tell you, man. Liberty changes a man.
uh, you've been to Lynchburg and you left Lynchburg just like Hugh Freeze.
That's correct. Yes, yes, indeed. I was. We were both born in some capacity in Lynchburg.
But I still feel like Auburn and Oklahoma are going to have decent seasons or the potential to.
Yeah.
Kentucky could get really bad,
Mhm.
and if Taylor Green's not good for Arkansas, Sam Pittman's going to be selling barbecue.
No, 100%. And like, I think the interesting thing with Stoops is like we've talked about it many times, but like he has an off ramp too. Like even if
Yeah,
it's just pedestrian, if there's any kind of talk of like, are we sure we want to go forward with this? He can make that decision for Kentucky. And like, I think Kentucky would honestly be in a worse spot for that. Like we both respect what Mark Stoops has done in Lexington throughout his career there. But in the case of Sam Pittman, yeah, man, it's not been going good. I still fully believe that if Sam Pittman were to get fired, like he would be snatched up by a Georgia, by an Alabama, by like a big program to come and coach the offensive line, to come and be a positional coach at some capacity. But at the same time, like he might just not ever get a head coaching job after this. Because if it fails again this year, like it's just and to be clear, we're not particularly optimistic about the Hogs.
No, it's like with him at Arkansas, like you'll beat teams of note. Like you beat Tennessee last year. You
Yeah.
beat Texas that one year, they were kind of good. The problem is like you lose to Auburn and Mississippi State when they're not good. That's kind of like,
You beat Texas that one year. They were kind of good.
that's Arkansas's like, oh, we're doing cartwheels in the street because we finished fourth in our division.
That's
Like
right,
it's
man. It's big for the program.
and we're fourth place in our division too,
That's
aren't we?
right. Hell yeah, we are.
Oh God, I hate baseball so much right now. But you mentioned with so many off ramps with Mark Stoops, we all know that like he could go to his alma mater to replace Kirk Ferentz in Iowa. We know that he had a really strong track record as a defensive coordinator at Florida State. If Mike Norvell fails, he's probably a top candidate there. And I don't know, maybe you coach the Youngstown State Penguins, really take it back home.
Really take it. I actually just when I was looking through this list, I actually thought of an interesting fit that he doesn't necessarily have ties to, but I just think he would. I think he's the right type of personality to succeed. If Loxley gets fired at Maryland, Mark Stoops at Maryland could be dangerous.
Yeah, I didn't think about that one too. I mean, it's complete paradigm. It's like you're talking about all offense and no defense versus like no offense and all defense. So it's
Yeah,
gonna.
but I mean, I think when you look at Kentucky, though, Mark Stoops has navigated whatever, whatever he can get. That's what Kentucky is. You know what I mean? If you have Brock Vandegrift as your quarterback, hell yeah, we're a defensive football team, brother. But like when you had Will Levis, like he brought in someone like Liam Cohen and being like, hey, like unleash whatever you can with this dude. And like we've seen that the ebbs and flows of Mark Stoops being able to adapt, even if that's not necessarily his roots of being an offensive minded head coach.
100%. And one place that I don't know if he has ties to, but his brother coached there. I think he'd be good at Arizona if Brent Venables failed.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if there's
He's
an if.
failing.
I was about to say, I don't know if there's an if needed for that statement, but yes.
Yeah. But the other thing with Kentucky is like baseball programs pretty good. Basketball programs found its footing under Mark Pope, went to the Sweet
Yeah.
16 a year early. Mitch Barnhart's been there forever as an AD. And Louisville's got the right guy with Jeff Brom at his alma mater. And
Mhm.
the guy who went to your school is kicking some serious ass there in the American and John Summerall, which I don't think he's going to be at Tulane for very much longer. Maybe you do this like kind of what happened to Mark Richt, where like South Carolina was going to hire Kirby Smart. Or like, the hell you are.
Yeah. The one worry I would have if I was Kentucky in that situation is yes, it would be coming home for John Summerall. But if John Summerall has Tulane humming again, I think he might have his pick of the litter of what job he wants. And I'm not sure Kentucky's going to be at the top of that list.
What would be at the top of that list if you? Because I can't get past the Big Blue Nation of it all.
Like, let's consider hell. I understand that it is a much more chaotic job, but if Hugh Freeze were to get fired at Auburn, I'm taking the Auburn job if I'm
Mm-hmm.
John Summerall. If I like, I'm trying to think of another one that could potentially there's a case to be made that the Maryland job would be more attractive than Kentucky. Like, I think the resources and things that you're going to have for the football program there are probably a lot more attractive. I'm trying to think if there's anywhere in the Big 12 that could open up that would make sense. Not necessarily. Like, I don't think Arizona is a more attractive job. Um,
He
Granted,
just he walleye pips Billy Fritz. Let's do it.
and okay, let's you a job you mentioned for Mark Stoops. Florida State opens up. John Summerall could thrive at Florida State. That could be an
Mm-hmm.
absolute banger of a job there. And I just think that if there is any the thing the what makes Mark Stoops what gives us the respect that we have for Mark Stoops is the fact that Kentucky works at a disadvantage in the football program. Like they are not it like they are light years behind the basketball program in terms of resources, in terms of frankly fan and booster support. Like it's basketball then football in Lexington, Kentucky, and that's not I'm not reinventing the wheel by saying that.
No.
And if you're John Summerall, you like with your ties to Kentucky, you know that. And you can go to your pick of the litter of any open job that prioritizes football in your job over the basketball program. I just think that that's a dangerous game to play if you're Kentucky.
What can I say? It don't mean enough.
That's right.
And I don't know how high John Summerall can count, but I hope it's 10. Let's do some TIN 10. Let's
TIN, baby. Let's go.
yeah. Shout out Joel Klatt where you're at for inspiring this. We were wanting to do a TI in 10 before I went on vacation. So he rattled off the 10 teams he think are most likely to make the playoff for the first time ever. We probably got some overlap. I know it's probably not in the same order. You start. Who is at 10 for you?
At 10, I've got the Miami Hurricanes, and they're an obvious inclusion on this list. You probably have them much higher
Oh yeah.
than 10, which says a lot about how you and I feel about Miami. Again, I said on earlier this week, like I'm not all about the U. I think that it's Clemson and then a very clear drop off in the ACC. Everyone is competing for second place, if that. And I'm not like because of that, I'm not entirely sure that the ACC has the ability to get two teams into the college football playoff. But I do think if you're tiering the teams that do have a chance, if they were to get two teams in there, Miami and SMU are at the top of that list. And so I have Miami in there because theoretically I can see a path. I just don't believe in Miami and Mario Cristobal to be able to get there.
Yeah, you've been higher in SMU than me all year, but they made it last year, so they're not eligible for this list. And
Yeah,
I am all about the. I'll talk about them a little bit later, but I'm also really high on the birds with teeth. We're gonna go with the Louisville Cardinals at 10 for
nice.
me.
Nice.
My thought is if they can learn to play any defense, it's like the Jaguars, man. They can't play any defense.
The
Passing
Bengals.
game,
The
the
Bengals,
Bengals,
bro.
the Falcons, man. It's the same damn thing. Um, but if Miller Moss can execute Jeff Brom's offense efficiently, Tyler Shuck did a great job, enough to the point where he's a second round pick and has earned the right to get a Jimmy Clausen there by the Saints. Yeah.
Yes.
Don't wish nothing but the best, but also the worst at the same time. They'll rise up. Anyway, yeah, Blogging Nerd is kicking some serious ass. Check that out on YouTube at Blogging Nerd DFS. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button. Do whatever you need to do, man. It's been really humming along. The show's humming along too, but I kind of feel that Miller Moss is better than Tyler Shuck, and Louisville has shown that like it can hang with the best teams in the ACC.
Yeah.
They need a few breaks here or there. Again, Kentucky in the non-conference, even though Kentucky's gonna be bad, it's still a quality non-conference. Power four win. Louisville makes the cut here for me. Who do you have it? Thoughts of that or nine?
No. I like Louisville again a lot. Like Miami's the only ACC team I have on here, and it's because I'm down in the league. It's not like I'm high on Louisville's prospects long term. I like the Miller Moss fit. I'm not sure the defense is going to be good enough to get them
No.
there this year, but I fully understand where your head's at with it for sure.
Cool. Who do you got at nine?
At 9, I've got the Utah Utes and our boy Devin Dampier. I just it's we've seen the highs of the Utah program. Like they've been to BCS, like they've been high in the BCS before the college football playoff. They've gone to Rose Bowls in the 14 playoff era. Like this is a program that has been on the cusp, not necessarily, really a threat to make it, but on the cusp of the college football playoff previously. Wasn't the case in the first year of the 12-team playoff, but I do believe that they have some sort of stability at quarterback now, upside with that, and it you're going to see this is going to be a theme. There's a buttload of Big 12 teams that I have in this list, and it's because there's a chance Arizona State doesn't win it. And if that's the case, then all of the Big 12 teams are going to be like all of the Big 12 threats have a chance to be a first-time college football playoff team.
I mean, TCU not, but
Yeah,
pretty much everybody else, yeah,
but
for
they're
sure.
also like I also consider TCU in tier two. Like I don't think they're necessarily quite like they're the top of tier two, but I don't think they're quite in tier one yet.
Right. I've got Utah coming up a little bit later. I guess it's the black smoke rising outside. It's outside your window right now.
That's right, it is indeed. Smells wonderful.
That's what happens to give a Kishka Brothers some fireworks, man. It just
That's
doesn't
right.
work.
That's right.
So at nine, I've got the Iowa Hawkeyes.
Okay. Oh, okay.
I was writing something for fansided.com today. It was basically an anti-Ohio State thing. It's basically just Chris Landers being big mad about the lime meat factory not being up to snuff in Columbus. Yeah, the Buhler vernacular is off the charts.
That's right.
But Iowa's got guys in both offensive and defensive line. Mark Gronowski coming in is going to really help the offense. Tim Lester, another year without Brian around. And this might be one of those years where, it's like a 10-2 Kirk Ferentz spite season, and they
Mhm.
get that Indiana spot.
Hey, I don't hate it. I do not have Iowa on here, but I can see it. It's not the most far-fetched thing I've ever heard.
Okay, so Who do you got at 8? Maybe we got some overlap here.
Yeah, quite possibly. I've got the Kansas State Wildcats here. And again, I'm not the biggest believer in Avery Johnson, but I am a believer in Chris Kleiman. I am a believer in this program. The defense should take a step forward. And in the event that Avery Johnson does take a step forward and looks like a functional quarterback instead of the teeny bopper running around there, like the Big 12 is wide freaking open and like they have as good a chance as anyone to get there.
I've got Kansas State coming up a little bit. How does he feel about his brother Ethan Holiday about to get drafted by the Rockies?
They're all related, I swear to God. I swear.
They've all from Stillwater, and not a damn one of the blood for the Pokes.
No, not at all.
That's gonna be awful.
Mike Gundy in shambles. He's gonna go headbutt another cow.
I got Kansas State coming up a little bit later. At number 8, I've got the Florida Gators.
Okay, nice.
I'm not really happy about this, but I think it's all about like the opportunities to really climb up there if you get a few big wins. Like if you were to upset Texas or Georgia, that puts you
Mhm.
in very good spot in the SEC. LSU as well. You've got DJ Lagway. They're close. They play pretty good down the stretch. They smoked Tulane in the Gasparilla Bowl, but Tulane was cooked at that
Yeah.
point, from what I recall. But you should have bet on that. Should have bet on that game. That made sense. But Florida's, I think, like the first of like, I think what, 3 SEC teams I've got on here that I think could do it. It's a little more unlikely. I think it's probably about a year away, but it will eventually come. Or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll never happen. Who cares? Go
No,
Dogs.
I have Florida on my list a little bit higher. I also have 3 SEC teams, but Florida is not the lowest of them.
Who is it 7 for you?
The lowest of them. That would be the Ole Miss Rebels.
I've got them
I
at 7 too.
okay, hell yeah, hell yeah. So we finally match up on one. But yeah, I look at Ole Miss and we can skip by my Florida part because I kind of want to compare Ole Miss and Florida. I think the opportunity for Florida is much clearer. Like the path to get to a college football playoff this year is clear. It's not easy by any stretch of the imagination, but you have all the opportunities you could ever need. Like there's a world where a 9-win Florida team is a viable college football
Oh
playoff
yeah,
contender. And so like I don't think there's a world where an Ole Miss team that wins 9 games is a college football playoff threat. Like
because it wasn't that last year.
exactly. And so like I do think like I am starting to drink a little bit of the Kool-Aid and like come around on this Ole Miss team as well. The more you read into it, the more you see what's happening in the spring, the more that the program and Lane Kiffin seem to have faith in Austin Simmons. But at the same time, I still think there's a good chance this team is probably a little bit worse than last year. And like, even if water still finds its level and you're a 9-10 win team, I just still see like, I don't see the as clear of a path for them as I do the Gators. And so that's why I have Ole Miss like a little bit lower there. But I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility because again, we believe in Lane Kiffin as a head coach. We believe in what he's done with this program. He did hit the portal hard again. And if Simmons is as good as advertised, like it could happen.
Yeah, this is all about the trust and faith I have in Lane Kiffin. It's a crazy world we live in where we can say that, you know. Look at model citizen Lane Kiffin
That's right.
pointing out noted golf guy who frees on the fine bomb show.
Little choir boy, always.
I got him coming up later in the show, by the way. I'll leave it
Oh
at that.
yes, hell yes.
Uh, but I'm kind of coming around on Austin Simmons as well. But you're right, they do have a relatively soft schedule.
Mhm.
And let's be real, they're not winning between the hedges in Athens this year.
No,
They're not doing it. Georgia's going to remember that game. That Georgia does not do very well with the rain because the best team when they play in the rain is always worse. The rain helps out the worst team.
yeah,
But there's opportunities to be had for Ole Miss. I just think he's a better coach than Billy Napier, and Simmons and Lagway could be relatively comparable. I'm high on both. I think we've kind of maybe overhyped Lagway a little bit more and maybe not put as much shine on Simmons' name.
yeah. I mean, we've talked about Ole Miss, and like they're in this space where last year, what not making the playoff was such a disappointment that it feels like that's carrying over to this year. And like I think we fell victim to it when we were talking about this team in like March, April, May. But now that like clearer and cooler heads have prevailed, you kind of look at it and it's like this team's probably a little worse, but not that much worse than what we saw last year.
No, and I'm gonna go with my number 6. I don't know if it's a cool or clear ahead here. It's gonna blow your mind. I've got the Tulane Green Wave at 6.
Ooh, I have them a little bit higher than you.
Oh
So
my God, really? Let's go. I think we're really high on Brendan Sullivan as the quarterback there,
yeah.
replacing Darian Mensa. John Summerall's there. You hung tough with K-State and Oklahoma early in the non-conference. You played really well down the stretch. I think you lost either like I don't know if they lost to Army or Navy or you lost to somebody
Yeah.
significant in the American towards the end there, but like you were vying for a playoff spot, and everybody towards the end there was like, it might happen. And had we've had the 12-team playoff a couple years ago, I mean, they beat USC in the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah.
They're right there, man.
They lost to Memphis in the regular season and then
Okay.
lost to Army in the AAC championship game.
Okay, so that's not too bad. So you got them coming up a little bit later. Who you got at six?
At six, let me get back to my notes. The Texas Tech Red Raiders, back to the Big 12. And we've got Morton Salt there at quarterback, obviously. Joey McGuire has been shaking babies all over the place. And this is a good roster, man. It truly is. I would probably actually have Texas Tech higher if I had more faith in Joey McGuire as an in-game, in-season head coach as I do as a program builder, but I don't necessarily have that. And so, like, I need to, like, Texas Tech is the one team on this list that I look at them and I'm like, I really need to see it from them before I truly buy into it. Because, like, on paper, I see the vision. On paper, I see how this team could win the Big 12 and get into the college football playoff. I need to see it on the field though before I believe it on paper.
He's got to kiss your hand, man.
That's right.
I may have forgotten to put Texas Tech on my list, but like I totally agree with you there. Baron Morton, it seems like he's the most confident quarterback they've had since probably more confident than Mahomes, to be honest with you. Probably
Yeah.
like Graham Harrell level, maybe BJ Simons kind of guy.
Yeah, like Mahomes was electric at Texas Tech, but he was also just like freewheeling it half the time.
Maybe
Like,
maybe Davis Webb. He
ooh,
played there one. He played there one year.
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
know. I don't remember, but like there's a lot to be confident about Texas Tech, but also you're right, the Joe McGuire of it all. I kind of view him as the Big 12 version of Sam Pittman. It's like I love the guy. He goes to all the banquets. I don't necessarily know if he knows the difference between X and O. It's like Mario Cristobal. We hate Mario for that. We love Sam Pittman for that. Where do we feel with that with Joe McGuire?
We don't know. That's why we put him in the middle of our rankings here.
All right. So five for me, that's where I've got Kansas State. I've
Okay.
got this is all about Chris Kleiman. This is all about uh relative traditional, a new traditional power, kind of like Oregon is and the West Coast. K-State's been good for most of our entire lives. It's all about the teeny bopper, Avery Johnson. Dylan Edwards is pretty good at running back. K-State was like I think you'd be foolish to not have Kansas State your top four teams in the Big 12,
Mhm.
pretty high in the Wildcats, easily.
No, agreed on that as well. And like I have him in the ranking. I'm not sure Avery Johnson is that guy, and that's really what it comes down to for me. Five is where I have Tulane, and I'm not gonna like you said everything I was gonna say. Like I have a hell of a lot of belief in John Summerall, and we've talked about it. Like when you and I have done college football playoff projections, and we're putting a G5 team in there, we've kind of just had Boise State kind of penciled in there most of the time, but like there's not a whole hell of a lot of certain things in the G5 this year. Like it could go a lot of different ways in the American, it could go different ways in the Mountain West. But the one thing that I'm really confident in is that John Summerall might be the best coach in the G5. And when you bring in someone like Sullivan, who I didn't think played all that poorly that last year either, like I think that Tulane's in a very good spot.
100% there. That's why I said that. Four is where I've got Utah.
Okay, okay, nice.
Yeah, it's all about Devin Dampier being the Rocky Mountain version of Lenore Sellers.
That's right, baby. Oh, I love that. Rocky Mountain Cellars. Let's go.
Coming down the mountain.
I mean, that's an A&E show coming on after Ice Road Truckers for sure.
He has no idea who Perry Farrell or Jane's Addiction is.
No, God no.
He may have ran into a Dave Navarro there in Albuquerque. We'll see with
Yeah,
that.
yeah. Everyone does. Everyone does.
Stop now, go. Okay, who do you have for four?
Four is where I have Florida, and again, I believe in the upside of DJ Lagway. I still believe in Billy Napier as a head coach. Like what Florida showed me at the end of last year, like we talk about Jeff Levy in the buy-in, like Florida had every reason to quit on Billy Napier towards the end of last season. And they didn't. And like they finished extremely strong. You're gonna be a better team this year. You have to navigate a tough schedule, but if you do navigate that, the path is very clear.
100%. So I know we've got one, maybe two teams that are the same in the top three.
I have a feeling we might be 3 for 3 in terms of the order we went here.
Uh, I guarantee you we're not because
Oh,
I've got one.
okay.
Okay. Three is where I've got Illinois.
Okay, okay, we are a little different. I have Illinois at 2. So
It's all about Luke Altmaier. It's all about Brett Bielema. And it's all about Gabe, Gabe J.
Gabe, our boy Gabe.
He's he's not a jackass, but that's his last name most.
That's what it is what it is.
You know, uh, Shawshank Redemption, the person's like, who's this Alexandria dumbass?
Oh, do you remember that commercial that was out there for a few years where the guy's like in an interview, he's like, and I really appreciate the opportunity, Mr. Dumbass. And he's like going after him. And at the end of it, the boss is like, it's Dumas.
Dumas or Duhas. We're not doing
It's-
Duhas today, but yeah, very high in Illinois. Like if Indiana falters, I'm kind of thinking it might be them.
Yeah, and I have like I said, I have Illinois too. Share all those sentiments. I think Luke Altmaier has the opportunity to really level up this year. 3 is where I have Iowa State, and I'm assuming you, based on your reaction, you might have them at 1.
I don't have them on the list.
Oh wow, okay, I love that.
I just kind of feel like every year I'm trying to bank on Iowa State being good back to back. They just don't do it. I don't know. I kind of felt like it was like Iowa or Iowa State, and I just kind of I got sucked up into the Mark Gronowski train over Rocco Becht. Again, like I think Iowa State was like 11 and Texas Tech was 12 for me.
Okay, so with Iowa State, I have them at 3 just because one of the things I've been thinking a lot about when it comes to the Big 12 race, and it kind of spawned from Monday's show when you put us both on the spot to think about who would our picks be to play for the Big 12 title game, and I landed on Arizona State and Iowa State, and like I tried to rack my brain a little bit after the fact and like wondering why was that like my gut inclination, like why did I go there? And I think the two things I like feel like I can bank on in the Big 12, a league that I fully believe is going to be chaotic, is Matt Campbell's going to have a good football team when he has a good quarterback, which he does in Rocco Becht. And I believe in Kenny Dillingham and what he has going at Arizona State. Those are the two things I believe in the most in the Big 12. And I think that when I look at the Big 12 hierarchy, like Joey McGuire still got to prove it to me. Avery Johnson still got to prove it to me. Devin Dampier is playing against a new level of competition, and we've seen the Utah defense be a little up and down over the past couple years. Like there are questions throughout the other teams at the top of the Big 12 that I don't necessarily like. I just think that Iowa State is a bit more stable than the other competitors trying to take down Arizona State.
I think for me, it ultimately came down to like who do I think is going to win Farmageddon? And right now, I've got K State. I think
That's fair.
it's kind of mutually exclusive because like K State's got such a weak schedule. Like they're going to be up for that game though. Although we'll see. Matt Campbell's like, I don't fly across country. I don't fly across ponds.
He's taking a cruise ship across the way.
He's taking a Norwegian cruise ship with K State alum Eric Stone Street.
That's right.
Two's where I've got Miami. Don't really need to go much on that. I just Carson Beck might be really good for them. And Miami has got enough talent there. And we have the same team for number one.
It's our boy, man. You know it is. It's Shane Beamer and Lenora Sellers. Let's go. Heisman Trophy winner, future Heisman Trophy winner, Lenora Sellers.
Future governor, future senator, future president of the United States of America.
That's
Noah
right.
Sellers. I don't know when the parties are going to flip, but he's going to be in charge of one at some point.
I mean, that's assuming by the time he's 35, this country still exists. But whatever.
That's true. Whatever. It'll just be Budapest. It'll just be fine.
That's right. Future Prime Minister of America.
Chancellor. What's a he's he's in the mirror. Yeah, we go to that. God, I love me some North Sellers. Before he came on the show, a friend of the program, Josh Pate's like, God, I love this guy. Shows the play of him like scampering out from like a would-be sack in Palmetto and runs like 60 yards down the field.
Dude, he's unbelievable. And like I I felt very validated today. I don't know if you saw this, but Daniel Jeremiah tweeted out earlier today. He's doing some early scouting for the 2026 NFL draft, and he said that no one surprised him more than Lenora Sellers because, like, obviously we know Lenora Sellers can do things like he did in Palmetto, where he can just run over a team and like he's hard to bring down because he's a big body, but he's also fast as hell. But I've maintained like last year, he took so many steps forward as a passer, and by God, Daniel Jeremiah validated me. And if I want to be validated by someone and what my eye test sees, it's Daniel Jeremiah. I trust that man quite a damn bit.
It's ironic. He didn't throw the ball very much in college. He was an option guy at App.
Yeah.
It's like the guy from Ripley's Believe It or Not. He's like, yeah, I don't fly. I can't
No,
swim.
can't do
I just
that.
can't do that either. And I also think it had to have paying Joe Clayton not have Colorado anywhere near his list.
I mean, yeah, we're gonna talk Colorado here in a second. I think
Yeah.
I think we'll see why.
I think we'll see why. And, it's a perfect time to move on to our penultimate topic with I Saw the Line. Cody, we're doing two today. We're going to do Colorado and LSU. We're going to look at like their schedules, see where they are with the win totals. I don't know if you're going off of Brett McMurphy of On 3 with Circa Sports and what their schedule is, but like we're going to have fun with this.
So one of the things I decided, what I was thinking about this for this segment, I think it might be more fun if we go through the schedule, we pick the games, and then we say what the line is. Like I think that makes for a little bit better conversation there because we're not trying to get to a number or anything. We're just seeing what we think.
All right, let's get to it. I've got it pulled up. What about you?
Okay, yeah. So we got the Colorado schedule. They open up, and I believe this is a Friday game, not a Saturday game, if I'm not mistaken, in week one. But they open up in Boulder against Georgia Tech.
1990, eat your heart out.
Yeah, no, oh my God, dude. Like they should be handing the ball off 75 times in this game.
I gotta be honest with you. It's the Ramblin' Wreck here.
Yeah,
I think Haynes King and Buster Faulkner go in there and they make a big statement. And if they win that game, they might be pushing toward. I don't think Texas to start the year ranked, but like they'll be receiving votes, and this will be a big win for them.
100%. Good news is Colorado will have a chance to get off the mat because then they host Delaware the following week.
Yeah. Welcome to FBS Blue Hens. Uh, Joe Flacco and Joe Biden ain't walking through that door. You ain't getting a win there.
No,
Colorado's 1-1.
1-1. Next game next week, and also a short week on this one because they're playing. It looks like they're playing on Friday for this one as well. On the road at Houston, so short week on the road.
That's going to be really close.
Yeah,
And I don't know where you're leaning. I'm kind of leaning Colorado.
I'm leaning a little Houston, but I can be talked. I'm not like strongly behind it, so I'll defer to you on that.
Um, I just think Pat Shermer's a really good
Yeah.
offensive coordinator. We don't know what Connor Wegman is. We have an idea what Caden Salter is.
Okay, so we'll go. Colorado's at 2-1. They host Wyoming the following week.
I think you get a win there.
What about the next week? We still haven't had a bye yet, and you've got BYU coming to town. Obviously, some changes in the BYU program, not last year's BYU, but BYU is still coming to town.
That's a lot more winnable of a game for Colorado than I thought with Jake Retzlaff out. I think they might. I think that's a trap game for them because they might be looking at TCU.
I think you're probably right, and BYU, even without Jake Retzlaff, is still a good football team.
Yeah, because this is like we were back and forth with Houston and Colorado, back and forth with this. So they split the pair. I think they're 3-2 at this point.
3-2, and then like you said, on the road at TCU.
They winning that.
Yeah, I think TCU is just a better football team, man. So we're at 3-3. Still have not had a bye, which I think is very important to note here, as they then welcome Iowa State to Boulder.
See, that hurts them considerably because Iowa State, there's a chance like they may not put up a ton of points. Like what they did in Arlington is kind of an anomaly. That's not how
Yeah,
they are.
100%.
But because you keep mentioning they're so tired, I think you probably lose that game to the Clones.
Yeah, because I mean, let's be honest, like Coach Prime has not been filling out the roster. Like that's not what he's been worried about in terms of the recruiting trail and the transfer portal. He's trying to find starters and playmakers. And like, yes, that does work to some degree, but when you start off with 7 straight games without a bye week, you're gonna feel the effects of that. They
Okay,
do
so
finally get at 3-4 as we currently have them. They do finally get their bye week. Not very friendly coming off the bye week though, because you're headed to Rice Eccles to play Utah.
yeah, Rocky Mountain Rumble. Uh I think I think Utah's got that.
So 3-5 we're sitting at right now. Thankfully, some more mercy coming their way because Arizona and Brent Brennan are coming to Boulder the following week.
Yeah, you're gonna win. You're gonna beat Arizona pretty bad.
Yeah, yeah. Not very high on the Wildcats this year, unfortunately, for Brent Brennan and his job security. Then we have the following week on the road at West Virginia with Rich Rod. I think we're both probably leaning the same way on that one because we're high on Rich Rod, but I don't see it.
And at this point, you basically got to win your final two games to maintain bowl eligibility. WVU could get it going at some point. This isn't the year I think Colorado wins at Milan Puskar Stadium
Yeah. So the following week, Arizona, or sorry, you get a bye week, and then Arizona State comes to Boulder.
for the pregame.
Yeah, the pregame.
Oh, that is going to be that is going to be
Yeah.
such. Yeah, Arizona State is going to line it up like a Christmas tree.
Yeah, take the over. That's what I'm going to say for that game. Also, Arizona State wins pretty handily. And then you finish on the road in Manhattan, the Little Apple against Kansas State.
Um, so are you already? I'm trying to think what your record is at this point. Are you already like you already have six losses?
Yeah, we're 5-6 going into this game.
Maybe you win this. I don't know why. Maybe you do get to 500. It's really close. I think Kansas State's better, but like Big 12 is weird.
Yeah. Well, we're looking at 5-7 or 6-6, I think is what we can definitively say with what we're looking at with Colorado. Their line on FanDuel Sportsbook is 6.5. So I think we're confidently taking the under on the Colorado Buffaloes this year, unfortunately.
Yeah, because there was only a handful of games on their schedule where like this could get my phone's acting weird. So excuse me, but
No, you're
yeah,
good,
the
man.
the timer is still going, but everything else is not. There's a couple of games where it could go either way. We talked
Yeah.
about Houston, we talked about BYU, we talked about K-State. We even briefly contemplated WVU,
Mhm.
but like there's some teams on their schedule like Iowa State and Arizona State. They're just going to beat you like a drum.
Yeah. It's unfortunate. Like I think what it to me said like clearly defines is Colorado is a leveling down from where they were a year ago, and also in doing so, like they're very clearly in a different tier than they were a year ago.
They were going to pull back anyway. The whole point is to can you make a bowl and kind of save face a little bit. Looks like they might, but it's going to be very close.
Yeah, and I mean you need to do a lot of the heavy lifting early because I don't think you want to end up in the scenario we were in where you're facing Arizona State and Kansas State, two of the best teams in the conference with bowl eligibility on the line.
That's brutal, man.
Yeah, like
Uh,
you're gonna want to win the Houston game, or you're gonna want to win. Like you're gonna make sure you win those toss-up games.
right there with you. And I believe we're doing LSU next.
We are indeed doing the LSU Tigers. All right, we start off with a haymaker, and that's a primetime game against Clemson, the battle for Death Valley.
It could go either way. I'm leaning Clemson in
Yeah,
this situation.
LSU loses this game. The high profile season again. I like I've said before, I give Brian Kelly credit for scheduling these games, but damn it, brother, you got to win one of them sometime.
The, if you can lose to USC in Las Vegas, you can lose on the banks of Lake Hartwell in Clemson in week
That's
one. But
right.
I think they're going to get a win the next week, though.
That's right. Sonny Cumbie's coming to town, and his seat might be hotter than anyone in college football this year. Louisiana Tech comes to Baton Rouge.
Sonny Cumbie is what you scream when somebody throws like hot grits on you. Like, Sonny Cumbie.
If you go back into the novels of the 1800s written in the South, I'm pretty sure that's a Mark Twainism that he had going on. Sonny Cumbie.
I mean, that's where his name Mark Twain came from anyway. So I'm right there with you. Uh, next game up's a big one.
Yeah, big one. Florida coming to town.
I think we did this last time we did this with Florida. I think we picked LSU to win, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I like this spot in the schedule for LSU in this game. Obviously, you get it at home, but also you look at it and like DJ Lagway has experience, but I feel like he's still on a little less like stable footing right now going into the season than Garrett Nussmeier and the LSU offense is. And I think that's probably the difference maker is I think we probably see a few fewer mistakes from Nussmeier than we do Lagway.
Right on with you. And you're winning the next game versus Southeast Louisiana.
Yeah, we're not gonna really discuss that one too terribly much. Then we get another interesting one on the road in Oxford against Lane Kiffin in the Ole Miss Rebels.
Because last year, Ole Miss lost Magnolia in Baton Rouge. Very
Hmm.
close game. Um, I almost want to pick Ole Miss, but I can't.
Okay,
So
so I'm
yeah,
leaning Ole Miss. Can I give you my reasoning behind it?
go right ahead.
So I'm leaning Ole Miss because when we talk about LSU, and like I'm still high on LSU, but like there are still questions about this defense and how they coalesce. And when you look at the first four games of the season, I feel like after the Clemson game, there's going to be a chance where Blake Baker and the staff are trying to shore up any holes that we see in the defense. I think that you probably feel pretty good coming out of the Florida game if they do get that victory like we're projecting. But I also look at it like if there's one coach on this schedule, particularly early in the season, that's going to be able to exploit any holes that still exist, it's going to be Lane Kiffin.
LSU is going to live by a shootout, die by a shootout, and I'm going to shoot out with Lane Kiffin. So Rebels are going to win this game. So this is LSU's second loss.
Yes, sir. Uh, then we get a bye week, and then they have South Carolina coming to town.
I think you win that kind of out of desperation. As much as I love Lenore Sellers, I mean, you still won in Columbia last year.
Yeah. And like I also look at it like we give Brian Kelly a lot of flack, most of it deserved, but you give him an extra week to coach prepare for a big game, he's gonna be ready.
Okay, so you get that win there, so you're 4-2. Then you get to the massive trap game going to Vanderbilt versus the live dog Diego Pavia.
Dude, Diego Pavia licking his chops at this spot on the schedule.
As much as I want to pick Vanderbilt to win this game, I think it's got to be LSU.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, yeah, like I do think Vanderbilt probably pulls off another Alabama-esque upset. I just don't think it's necessarily this one. Um, then we get like you said, as a trap game because Texas A&M's coming to Baton Rouge the following week.
Big emerging rivalry game. LSU's kind of playoff viability is on the line here. Maybe more so than not because, like, you lost the non-conference to Clemson, so it's not going to be that punitive. But if you lose to the Aggies, you're basically not going to make the playoff. So I think you beat Gig'em here.
Yeah, and I'm skeptical of Marcel Reed to begin with. I'm very skeptical of Marcel Reed in Death Valley.
And then I think next up we got the game to define their season.
Yes, sir. That is the trip to Tuscaloosa to play the Alabama Crimson Tide.
God, that's hard. Um,
I'm gonna go. So I'll tell you where I'm leaning. I'm leaning Bama in this one. A, because it is in Tuscaloosa, but B, I think that I've said it before. Like my worries about Alabama lie on their offense, but I think their defense can shut about just about anyone in the country down. Like, and if you get into a defensive struggle, LSU's not going to come out on top of that.
Also, I think by that point of the season, you will have been settled at quarterback. Ty Simpson's either
Right.
proven he's got the job or Keelan Russell's overtaken him at that point. So, yeah, Alabama protects their own turf. So that's 3 losses for LSU.
That's three losses. The following week, we got Arkansas coming to town. We don't need to belabor this point. I don't think Arkansas has the horses for it, man.
No, sir. LSU it gets another W there.
Then they take a W to into the next week when they play WKU. Which sorry to the Hilltoppers in Big Red, but I don't see it really happening.
No, not at all. Then your final game is you're going to go into the Palace on the Prairie down there at Owen Field with Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium there in Norman, Oklahoma. I
Yes,
just
sir.
pulled that out of my ass.
Love
Uh,
it.
you got to win this game if you're LSU, but maybe you don't versus
Maybe you
Oklahoma.
don't. I mean, this one has shootout written all over it, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And man, I don't know. I actually don't know where I'm leaning on this one.
I would lean. This is probably for like being because like we haven't done the Oklahomas yet, but like this is like you're hoping to get that 11 seed in the playoff if with whoever wins this game.
Yeah.
And if Garrett Nussmeier is all that in a bag of chips, he's got to win this game. So I'm gonna give it to LSU.
All right. And I didn't spoil it. I'm proud of myself for it. That was a big one because LSU's over under line is set at 8.5. And that gets them to 9-3 on the season. So big win for them to get it in Oklahoma. But I do think you look at LSU's schedule, that 8.5 line's pretty like not shocking. Odds makers are good at setting lines, but that's a damn good line.
I think looking at it, the only schools that are better or better than 9 are all 9.5. Alabama, Georgia, and Texas are all 9.5. So
Right.
those teams have just brutal schedules.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's tough out here in the SEC.
yeah, the Big Ten, it's not as tough. It's
I was actually looking through some Big Ten schedules when I was trying to figure out what teams we're going to talk about, and I was like, man, a lot of this S is boring in the Big Ten. Like, I don't even want to talk about
no,
this.
it's not fun, but we're about to have fun here with our final topic here with some just like no game.
That's
Let's feel
right.
hella good with some no doubt.
Yes,
God,
sir.
I love this no doubt.
Dude, no doubt slaps so hard.
I was thinking about this beforehand. This is Antonio's favorite band.
Oh, absolutely. No doubt, you could say.
So he he thinks he can date Gwen Stefani like Tony Kanal, um, but he looks like Adrian Young, and he acts like Tom the douche Demont when he's too hammered.
Exactly. That's
His
perfectly
favorite,
described.
Antonio's favorite song is "Hey Baby" because he can
Oh
say it.
yeah. Hey baby. We were telling him how to say hey Bubba and he just said hey baby.
Also, I saw something. I mean, half of No Doubt cameoed in Zoolander.
That's true. That is true.
Gwen Stefani is next to Gavin Rossdale, who she was with at the time of
Yep, yep.
Bush, and then Tony Kanal is like one of like the French designer sitting next to the American one, Jennifer Coolidge. Tony Kanal is Stifler's mom.
Fun fact, you know how Chris, our coworker Chris Klein is just like the biggest movie guy? He's
Yeah,
never seen Zoolander. And I was like, brother, you gotta change that.
you got to change that. Yeah, you gotta get a slashy for actor slash models. I mean, I look like Fabio. Let's do it, brother.
I found that out because we had a new contributor start with fansided.com whose name was JD Pruitt, and it made
Oh
me think of this. I was
yes,
like, you're JP Pruitt, the famous hand model.
JP played by David Duchovny.
Yes.
God, that movie is so good.
It's great.
I think it's Owen Wilson peaked in that movie.
Oh, 100%.
So good here. But yeah, let's move on to some no doubt. Let's go with their biggest hit probably ever. Don't speak. Who do you have for that?
Matt Rule, don't speak, brother. You're the only one that likes the sound of your voice, brother. I know what you're thinking, and I don't care anymore.
That's really good. I've got Matt Rule coming up a little bit later. So my two are I've got Kirk Herbstreit saying this to Lee Corso ahead of his final show.
Oh man.
And I mean that's kind of when he started doing game day back in 95.
Yep, yep.
And also really big back in 1995, that would be Josh Heupel in his Letterman's jacket with Oklahoma to Oklahoma.
But I'm on the do not call list. Don't speak.
Please block my number. And who's really lovely underneath it all?
Really love it underneath it all. Dude, it's someone we've fortunately talked about a lot this episode. Lane Kiffin, man. Dude's just a good football coach. Like, I understand there is a lot of extracurriculars that go into the Lane Kiffin experience. But damn it, he can coach a football team.
God, I love that. So there's times when this dress rehearsal seems incomplete. That's Dan Lanning.
It's because of the rib tat, obviously.
And then for the line, some real bad tricks and he needs some discipline, but lately you've been trying real hard, giving your best. That's Lane Kiffin.
That's like Kiffin, hell yes.
He's grown up a lot since dinner. But it's his life and it's my life. Who's that for you?
That's Bear Alexander, man. Don't judge the man. He's transferring again. He's headed to Oregon, but it's his life. Don't you forget. And he's going to transfer wherever the hell he pleases, man.
Is he transferring again?
Yeah, he's headed to Oregon. I found that out in research for the show. I had no idea. But yeah.
It's funny how I find myself in love with you and your team, Billy Napier. I'm just like
Yeah.
one half wanting it's my life. And then the line, I tell myself, what good do you do? Convince myself. Oh, it's my life. Don't you forget Lincoln Riley.
Yeah, 100%.
Uh, who's feeling hella good? This is probably my favorite song by them. I've had this song stuck in my head all week.
Bro, they need to, and I'll tell you what, the Syracuse Orange need to turn this on whenever Fran Brown's running on the field because he's feeling hella good right now. Just got a 5-star to commit to Syracuse. Had Colin McCord in that offense humming last year. Like, dude, Fran Brown's truly got to be feeling hella good right now.
The guy who doesn't understand why the waves would crash on him for some reason, but he's feeling hella good and keep on dancing. That's Dabo Swinney.
Oh yeah.
And I could also see Brian Kelly grinding up on a recruit on the Lazy Suits in this song.
Dabo definitely knows Gwen Stefani as Blake Shelton's wife or partner.
So she's dated Tony Kanal, married to Gavin Rossdale of Bush, and then there's cheese in your crust of Blake Shelton. That's
She
just
does not have a type, is what I've learned from this conversation.
the little Indian bass player who plays for you, the grunge pretty boy, and then this guy.
The country strong, like 6'5" redneck.
What do you think Blake Shelton's favorite? He probably likes I'm Just a Girl.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Man, that song's good, man.
That's a good damn song there.
All right. Spiderwebs, who do you have for that?
Dude, that's Luke Fickle. Like just walking through the spider webs of what Wisconsin used to be right now.
Also the phone calls there.
Oh yeah. They were coming at one point.
Yeah, I had him on there too for you think that we connect, that the chemistry is correct.
Yeah.
No. And the guy who says, sorry, I'm not home right now, just leave a message and I'll call you back. That's Hugh Freeze in the golf course.
On the burner phone, of course.
On the burner phone. And then settle down for their comeback. Who's trying to get a hold on this?
Bro, I'm bookending the hell out of this episode because that's Scott Frost, brother. Settle down. Settle down. You did not like Nebraska was your fault. Settle down.
A guy who loves to hear two guys love to hear himself talk. I'm trying to get a hold on this, and I really mean it this time. That's Matt Rule.
Yeah, it is.
And the guy who's most likely to say the phrase, I'm hella positive for real. That's Shane Beamer.
I actually like reading the lyrics of the song. All I could think about was Shane Beamer the entire time. I thought it was too obvious.
That was the thing. They didn't want to understand, man. He wanted to come out to hella good.
Oh, 100%.
Doesn't pulse. Lane State doesn't pulsate the same way as to understand.
No, not at all.
No, not at all. And this was episode 191 of False Start. You can follow me, John Buhler, on Twitter, the X at Buhler118. You can follow Cody Williams at the Sizzle20. You can follow the show at CFP False Start. Like, rate, listen, subscribe, review on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere there's podcasts. Give us a 5-star review.
John Cena style, baby.
John Cena. Is he real?
I don't know. You can't see him, so.
No, you can't see it. What do you think his favorite No Doubt song is?
I could see him being a big underneath it all guy for sure.
And the starters, you are lovely underneath it all. And this is False Start.